right, hello. Thanks for joining us today. We are very excited to have Allison here with us. If you need closed captioning, I did want to draw your attention to the CC button located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. You may need to click on the More menu option to access that closed captioning button. My name is Lauren Whittick, and I am the moderator for today's session. I'm the communications specialist for Region 4, which is based out of the University of Utah. And Region 4 is comprised of 9 states, which are Arizona, Idaho, Colorado, Montana, New Mexico, North and South Dakota, Utah, and Wyoming. So since some of you may be first-time attendees at an NNLM webinar, I just want to provide a brief overview of what our organization does. NNLM stands for the Network of the National Library of Medicine, which is part of the National Library of Medicine, which falls under the umbrella of the National Institutes of Health. Our guiding mission is to provide equal access to biomedical information and to provide individuals access to information to enable them to make informed decisions about their health. Regionally, we collaborate with various organizations, including but not limited to public and academic libraries, schools, hospitals, and community-based organizations. Our efforts are primarily conducted through our 3 main pillars, which are providing funding to enable organizations to support their communities, conducting outreach, and training like today's webinar. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. By registering for this session, you've agreed to the NNLM Code of Conduct. So we just ask that you please keep your questions and your comments respectful. And this just allows us to create a welcoming learning environment for everyone. We are recording today's session and the slides will be made available. Just note that it takes us a week or 2 or so to get the slides and recording edited, and we will mail that out to all registrants once they are available. We're also going to share a link to the evaluation toward the end of the session, and completing that evaluation is the first step to claiming your continuing education credit, should you be interested in doing so. And finally, we ask that you enter your questions into the chat as you think of them. I'll take notes and share them with Allison at the end when we have time for Q&A. Moving on, our next Region 4 webinar will be held on November 12th, 2025, and the session's called Disabled in the Wild, A Beginner's Guide to Chronic Illness and Disabilities in the Outdoors. Registration is currently open, and Sam's going to pop that chat, the link to registration if you're interested, into the chat. We also will be making announcements on our newsletter and our blog in the near future. And if you'd like to stay up to date with Region 4, we encourage you to sign up for our newsletter or visit our blog. The QR code shown here on the slide will take you to the regional page, which is just nnlm.gov/about/regions/region 4. If you live outside of Region 4, I strongly encourage you to head to nnlm.gov to find and connect with your respective region for additional opportunities in your area. Now I want to welcome today's guest speaker, Ms. Allison Wilson. Allison is an Access and Functional Needs, short for AFN, public health specialist with Jefferson County Public Health's Emergency Preparedness Team based out in Colorado. She oversees cross-collaborative AFN and family health projects. This includes expanding the Safe Infant and Young Child Feeding in Emergencies project as a mission-ready package with Rocky Mountain Medical Reserve Corps and supporting access and functional needs integration between the county emergency management and partners like University of Colorado Center for Inclusive Design and Engineering. Allison has facilitated many grant awards in her career, most recently from the National Association of City and County Health Officials on embedding access and functional needs into emergency plans and staff trainings for preparedness and ensuring public health programs can accommodate any participants. Allison holds a Master of Public Health degree from Missouri State University and has worked in the field for 17 years. I'm going to turn it over to Allison now because the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lauren. Can you all hear me okay?
We're
Great.
good.
Good. I think we're all in good afternoon now. So hello, everyone, if you're joining us in that time zone. But good day. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Let me get my screen going here. I'm going to change this top. Zoom defaulted back to what we didn't want here. Just give me a second. Hopefully now you all can see the first slide. Lauren, tell me if anything
Looks good.
off. Okay, great. We don't need to see the other stuff. Yeah, thank you all. It was lovely. I met someone from the network of National Library of Medicine at the July conference of NACHO, National Association of City and County Health Officials, that invited me to this, but I'm really excited to learn about this our organization and learning series because I wasn't familiar. And so there's a lot of amazing learning sessions this month, specifically around September and Preparedness Month. So I'm really happy for all the information you all can get. Because really today I'm going to focus in on access and functional needs because that seemed like the most unique piece. And there's so much more I could talk about with preparedness and emergency planning, but I'm really excited that a lot of the other sessions are covering that. So I'm here today to share with you about how it can be a priority, not only in community preparedness, but also in day-to-day interactions, programs, and services. And that's really what we learned in Jefferson County when we first looked at it from an emergency preparedness lens and then realized we need to do this in day to day. And so I'll share with you some of the things we've done and some of the items that we've done that hopefully you can practically take back to whatever type of organization you are with to think about broadening accommodations and support for everyone. And let's see, I think we're ready to go to the next one. I do work on our emergency preparedness and response team here at Jefferson County Public Health. Jefferson County is the county just west of Denver County. So we're right on the Front Range in Colorado. I might have some Colorado friends here today. But our county is pretty big, 550,000 people, 11 different cities, but we also go up into the mountains, so rural, so lots to think about with providing and partnering with communities. We have a lot of different communities in thinking about this topic. So I wanted to start with an accessibility statement. You could also call this inclusive statement, welcoming statement, but we just have found this is really helpful, and you can of course tailor it depending on the situation. But please exist in this space in ways that are most comfortable for you. You can stand up, sit down, lay down, especially since we're virtual, stretch, walk around, leave the room, stim, use your electronics as needed. Although of course we hope you can be attentive to this short presentation and engage. Feel free to have your video on or off and to speak as much or little as you like. We have the chat too today in this format. Everyone exists in spaces in different ways. How someone can best engage and listen might look different than how you do. And please let us know if we need to slow down or repeat any information during this discussion. So I'm here today. I think you all probably saw this, but really I just want you all to be able to give a simple definition of what is access and functional needs, if you don't know already, be able to identify one item that supports access and functional needs, or as it's abbreviated, AFN. Describe how it's important in community preparedness, and we'll kind of just barely have time to touch on this, but I will provide other resources specific for further, learning or application to your space, especially around emergencies if useful. And then where can you find those resources? So we'll share that link near the end of what all has been useful for us. So we're just going to play a quick game. We start all of our trainings when we're trying to help folks understand what is access and functional needs with this game. So we've got a poll. You can select all that apply. So have you ever in your life had any of these things happen to you or be a part of your experience? So if everyone can take a sec, you should be able to answer as many as you want. we'll let that poll run and see. And I love that we can see it in real time on the screen here. So right now, everyone's answered all of them at least once. The cell phone and caring for others are top of the list, it looks like, followed closely by transportation not coming through for you. All right, excellent. I'm going to end it here after we're almost to a minute and we've got 70% participating. Can you all see that, the answers as well, Lauren, or is that just me?
I think it's just host, but we can
Okay.
just go over, like you said, the top answers.
What happens when I end? Okay, perfect. So thank you. Everyone has answered or sorry, all the questions have been selected. A lot of you participated, so thank you. So the top one was been out of cell phone service, followed by, sorry, it's not in order here, taking care of someone. But this is something that we do. Let's see what happens when I click share results. Can you all see that now? Big thanks to Lauren for creating that
Yes.
for me. So this is something, it's a game we play. It's really fun, of course, if you're in person, because you have folks raise their hand or stand up or do something just to help, move your body. But it's a way we say, like, have you done this and this? And eventually everyone will have had a need to access, right, a resource in life. And so it just helps frame and put in perspective that everyone will have an access and functional need at some point in life, whether that's temporary or long term. And some of those really are very common disruptions that we all face. Oops, sorry. Okay. So this QR code here does go to our state. We're fortunate in Colorado to have this awesome state AFN team with our Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. That was funded, thankfully, from the state maybe like 8 years ago now, made as a priority when we were looking at emergencies. And they did a ton of listening sessions around the state and really developed some awesome trainings and resources. So if you already aren't familiar with them, we'll share their link at the end. And the trainings and things are open to anyone. Like the director there, Sadie, is great at really wanting those to be available. And I know we've had lots of neighboring states partner with us, share resources, especially when thinking about planning for emergencies. But that QR code just goes to their quick AFN brochure. But it really does talk about it helps us pivot and think about what resources are needed for folks to function. And it really means everyone will need an access to a resource. And if we can identify and have those resources provided, folks can survive emergencies, and also remain more independent and be healthier. And even in the day-to-day, right? If they're able to have a resource that's needed, they can access programs, services, and spaces where everyone can be. So we have found over the years that our Colorado, in Colorado are communities that would identify with a long-term disability, and some that are proud of that. They'll say, yes, I'm proud to have this disability, but they also really love this term access and functional needs because it is a bit of a broader definition. When it was created, and again, I don't know, I know we've got a good amount of people on here, and some of you may be in libraries or other university or academic settings. Some of you may be in emergency management. And so this was really developed, especially just thinking, I know we recently had the 20-year anniversary of Katrina, but after Katrina, so many lessons learned, right, about resources that could have been available but weren't, and with lots of disasters. I don't want to say it's only there. I grew up not too far away from New Orleans, actually, so but June Isaacson Kales is an amazing expert in the field of disability advocacy. And she really created this as what are the resources we need in an emergency? And she thinks about it from a memory tool of what's CMIST, which I know every every Group and program has acronyms, but it thinks about it again from a resource perspective, because when I go, I'm at the health department and we have a county emergency manager. So we partner a lot in response to emergencies, depending on the type. We lead the medical ones, they lead all the others. And I think our emergencies would be similar to what many of you face in our region, just because we all have extreme weather, flood, fire, other dangers. But really, it's thinking about, when I talk to our emergency manager, Nate, it's like, hey, if we plan for these resources around communication, maintaining health, keeping people independent, what safety and support they need, and transportation, you will have those resources available. And it's much better than saying, oh, we have a special needs group or we have a person that's vulnerable, because that doesn't tell an emergency manager that's there to respond what is actually needed. So that's kind of what was really instrumental and revolutionary with access and functional needs. And it really did begin from emergency planning, but like I said, we've broadened it thinking about our day-to-day programs. So I did want to mention though, definitely disability, like folks that would identify with a disability, visible or invisible, would definitely be a part of access and functional needs, but access and functional needs is really the broader category. And then having a disability could be one of the access and functional needs. And we do know too, I've learned a lot of this from our partners that were mentioned in the intro, Julia Beams at our University of Colorado, Denver. So she knows a lot more around ADA, and someone does have to have an impairment that limits a major life activity, but you have to have that record or being regarded. So sometimes other folks may be missed, specifically with that. When we look at ADA, again, not that we would exclude that, that's very important, but it really helps expand it. So we are looking at including the broadest group of folks who benefit from all sorts of physical communication and program access. And that slide here just kind of reiterates that again. Often physical programmatic access, a simple item, auxiliary aid or service, integration and effective communication is enough to help an individual maintain health, safety, and independence. Lauren, I'm going to keep going to kind of go into more practically what we've done. Are there any questions though? Sorry, I can't see the chat.
No questions so far.
Okay.
So if you have any, please just go ahead and pop them in.
Yeah. So yeah, that first part gave some background. Really, again, access to functional needs is knowing that everyone will need access to a resource to function. That could be temporary or long-term. So we really kind of covered the definition, the reasons why, and why it really is a broad way to look at the resource needed, and really reframing again from a label of an individual or expecting an individual to be on a list that they might get missed. This way we say, oh, in an emergency, these are the communication resources we have. These are the ways people can maintain health, independence, a support need, and transportation, and it helps us be ready. So we actually at our health department, really in 2019, started some focus groups, kind of had to pause, and in 2022 got a small grant, and we were like, we're going to put this into our emergency plans. And what we realized as we were doing some assessments to look at that, and again, adding how are we going to support access and functional needs in emergencies, we realized, I don't know if we're doing this in our day-to-day work to our fullest potential. Like, do staff know about access and functional needs? Are they asking folks that are interacting with us what types of things they would need? Do they know what to ask? Or if they're asking, then do they not have an item that is needed? So we did do a quick 4-question survey with our staff. Our health department has about 150 staff. And we got about 80 folks to respond, which was great, probably because it was short. And most folks couldn't define it, which makes sense. It is a newer term. Even myself, I've been at the health department for 10 years, but on other teams before in emergency preparedness. And I had not heard this term until I really was in this role. And then we also heard from staff, like, I need to know how to interact. I need to know what to say, what not to say. What do I do if I recognize something? Where do I go to get a material or an item? How do I request that support? And then, so that was basically these other three of what staff wanted on the survey. It was really helpful for us to see, okay, let's do an introduction training, and let's figure out some items that we can provide and have readily available at our key points of services or with teams that are going out a lot into the community. I'm not going to talk too much about the third one. We do have a state House bill that went into effect in July about digital accessibility. So we've definitely been working a lot on that with our county as well, and doing some learning sessions there. But today I'm going to focus more on the training we did as well as some of the items that we purchased, because I think those are real easy ways for you all to potentially start or broaden what you have at your organization. All right, so we've reached a lot of our staff. The remaining staff, I want to provide it potentially as a self-guided option, but we really want to make sure all of our health department staff have taken at least the intro training, because we have a lot of great required trainings, but again, we just wanted a good baseline understanding of access and functional needs. And so we did find out, thankfully, that the training was effective. 95% of the staff could identify what AFN meant and then explain one of the items that we have. We did the training both on Zoom live and in person. It kind of depends on the type of team, right, and their schedule. A lot of us are remote, but a lot of them are home visitors going out in the field. Environmental health is one it's been a little bit harder. So that's when I might need to do something tailored for their schedule. So folks have different schedules. So really trying to meet folks where they are. This is a picture here of our WIC and a lot of our nurse home visiting teams with their go bags they got at the end of the training. We actually combined the access and functional need training with a training on how staff can be prepared, because while our health department staff technically are required to respond in emergency if we ask them to, we realized they didn't feel prepared themselves for their family and their household. So we kind of added that in because we really want to take care of our staff so that they can then respond effectively. And we're going to try to do it self-guided, like I said, and that would include our entire county staff, which is about 3,000. And our libraries are amazing partners throughout so many different efforts that we do at the health department, but that would be a way for them to then access that training as well. So I'm happy to, if folks have more questions about the training, to contact me after or to share. We've shared it as long as we get credit for, like, we looked at this as a resource. We're happy to share, because when I was trying to develop it, it was really hard to find what was out there. And the best thing was to look at other communities, and if someone could share some specific like outline and talking points with me, it was really helpful when we made it. Okay, so I'm going to take a break here from talking and share with y'all our video. We had to make a 3-minute video for our work. We received an award through the NACHA where we got the grant, and I love the video because video is, again, so much better than talking. So you'll see some of the items that we use. You'll see Julia, our amazing partner from the university. She helps co-teach the training, and you'll see a little bit more about what we've gotten, and then we'll go over those items on the slides after that. So just bear with me 1 minute while I switch. We're going to watch the video from my computer to ensure the best quality. Okay, great. And Lauren, we should be good, but if anything's not coming through, just stop and let me know.
Okay.
I'm Allison Wilson, she, her, and I'm an Access and Functional Needs Specialist with Jefferson County Public Health.
So I'm Julia Beams with the University of Colorado Denver's Center for Innovative Design and Engineering, and I'm their Emergency Preparedness Program Coordinator.
So Access and Functional Needs, or AFN, is a broad term, but at its heart, it's about recognizing that everyone needs support or access to a resource sometimes. Maybe it's a communication device, a mobility aid, or just a quiet space to regulate and reset. So at Jefferson County Public Health, we wanted to stop treating that as an exception or an add-on and instead build it into our work every day. But we realized we weren't fully prepared, not just for emergency situations, but even for daily interactions with community members who have access and functional needs. We asked, what would it look like to be ready every day, not just during a crisis? That was our starting point.
So I provide a statewide support in emergency preparedness, making sure it's inclusive. At Jefferson County Public Health, I've helped co-lead trainings and provided consulting to make sure that the programs are inclusive with the access and functional needs community. One of the best parts about the program is that it's hands-on. We have accommodations that people can actually see and touch and make sure that they know how they're utilized appropriately. And so this shifts the mindset from actual theory to actual inclusion.
This work has sparked change across our departments. Our emergency plans are more inclusive with access and functional needs embedded within the plans. Our front desks are set up to support different needs. And most importantly, our staff are thinking about access.
Did that freeze for y'all too?
Yeah.
Let me go back. I think we heard.
Our staff are thinking about access in new ways, not as extra, but essential.
So it's important to remember that you don't have to have everything figured out from the very beginning. You need to take it one step at a time and do what you're capable of doing at that point. If you are able to just buy one accommodation or provide one accommodation, that's a good place to start. You need to remember that it's important for Jefferson County that it's all about everything you all do through the workforce, health equity, and public health.
It's really about creating a culture where inclusion is the default, not the exception. And once that shift happens, it benefits every program, every team, and every person that we serve.
Thank you. Let me just get back here. Okay. Oop, there we go. All right. So, I think what's great, and Julia is so good about this, is she's like, it can be quite simple. And these are always hard virtually because I can't, there's not time to interact or ask because many of you may already have some of these items. Maybe you've seen something before, but I think it's just thinking about what have you noticed? Like, oh, we did have a request for that, or we noticed this and we kind of scrambled and figured it out. But is there a way to be a little more proactive and add some of these items in your programs? And you saw in the video pictures that was at our front desk. It was a lot of our team, our emergency preparedness and health equity teams helped us out with the video, but at our WIC front desk, our other front desk. But I also wanted to mention that like our nurse home visitors going out now can pack some of these items just when they're going to homes. And so there's other ways to integrate them too with staff. And what we're trying to do is ensure that every team has these basic items. And then we have larger items that can be larger, meaning like more expensive. One thing is larger because it's our backup batteries, but things that aren't necessarily going to be used super often, but that we can share as a department. We could maybe only afford to buy several. So we have a checkout process there. So I'm just going to go through and explain what you saw in the video. And I don't know, since I can't see the chat, I don't know if I can see reactions, Lauren. Has anyone, I wanted to ask if anyone had like recognized these. You could just react if you already use this or recognize things. I wonder if I'll be able to see that. I see yours, Lauren.
I have used some of
Um,
those.
Say that again.
I said I have used some of those. Yep,
Yes.
you're
Okay,
getting some
good.
thumbs up. Yeah.
I think yeah, I'd like that thumbs up. So this, I know, again, it's simple. Our clinic actually was really excited. They're like, oh, sometimes we just need to write things down, draw something. These are real simple whiteboards, the small ones, right? Just for simple communication needs. And then we'll just keep going through as I go through. Oh, good. This is new to me. Okay, great. We'll keep going through and maybe just react. These are just communication sheets, right? So pictures to explain how they're feeling. For us, it's real important that they're always in English and Spanish. We're working on getting Russian and Vietnamese as well. But just thinking about what languages are most used, what are the heart languages most used in your communities. I think a lot of us have seen these, of course, maybe in our own, healthcare at the doctor. One thing that is needed, Julia helped us understand, is she'll make them for a specific project or program. So if they're doing a specific vaccine clinic or even our newborn screening program, they were like, oh my gosh, it'd be amazing to have these tailored for us. How about this one? And I kept it easy. Sometimes I don't show the answer, but has anyone used a portable battery charger? It's okay if not. We have these just in case it's needed, specifically for mobility. And these are also part of okay, someone say no, part of our emergency response. So I do want to mention the day-to-day items. Today, I'm focusing a lot on what we're using in normal day-to-day, but all of these can be deployed in an emergency. And our county actually has a larger trailer that has a lot of larger access and functional needs items when it comes to maybe setting up a checkpoint or a shelter and different things that would be needed. Let me keep going. All right, so these are pen and pencil grips. It's amazing too when I teach staff and then they get to try it out. They're like, oh, I actually really like this, or this is actually helpful for me. Someone said I've got arthritis in this one knuckle and it drives me crazy. So again, having these like at a front desk on the pens is really important because no one's going to ask for it. But then if they can use it and it's pretty easy to clean, it just makes it easier. Something to think about too. A lot of folks I know have electronic signatures now that might be easier, but the signature cards and things like that. Right. Noise reducing headphones. I wasn't able to we have a whole pediatric comfort kit as well for emergency response. And so this would be, they're in small little backpacks that the kids can actually color the cloth backpack as a way to sort of calm down after an event. And they have some simple fidget toys. Those are more for our emergencies for deploying, but at even just in our clinic settings or places where it might be loud at an event in line, we have some of these noise reducing headphones for kids and adults. We've also set it up where teams can check these out for community events, and that's been really popular. And it's the bin, I don't know if I'd had a picture of it. It's really quite small. Most of this can fit in a pretty small clear bin. So it's pretty portable. This one is a pocket tucker. Has anyone ever used this or seen this? Let's see, I see some. Yeah, I'm using a pencil grip right now. I love that. Sorry, I'm a little behind on the chat. This one, it's very simple. It's like an old school Walkman where you just would put it on. I did have a Walkman, but your ears, and then it just amplifies wherever you point that microphone, just to help amplify the sound. It can be used with hearing aids, which is really nice. And I know this was very useful at our clinics, vaccine clinics, and then we had a community listening event where they went to an assisted living center to get feedback, I think about their connection and it was a project our older adult specialist was doing, and she said that was really useful. These are more expensive. This isn't, I have like in the end, I'll show you kind of the budget, but these are a little more expensive, but again, we got a few and can check them out among teams. And they have like ear covers that you can throw away. This is probably one of the most used things, like more often, I guess. I think everyone's like, wow, this is really nice because not only does it magnify, it has lights. And so it has different, like there's like warm light, cool light, but it really does help read and see forms much easier. And again, if you've got it out, it can be really useful for folks, and they'll just like pick it up and use it. But again, they're not going to ask for it necessarily. And we found this is better than reading. Sometimes we've had reading glass, a few different types of prescription, but those are harder because you have to clean them. And this is just really nice because you just hold it there. Oh, nice. Someone's got one at their front desk. That's amazing. And I would love to hear, yeah, anything in the chat on other items that you all are using that you found useful, because I think we're always looking at adding more items or taking feedback to see what's helpful. Reading strips. When I was presenting this at a conference and we were all interacting with them, someone was like, I have never didn't even know these existed. Where were these all my life? And I think she had a blue one. They come in different colors. It's up to you on color preference. And of course, it's nice to have a variety of colors depending on what works for someone, and thinking of colorblind too. But it really helps just sort of organize the information and make it clear, especially if it's a form that has a lot of information. But she was so excited. She's like, I get so lost when I'm reading and it's really hard. And this is going to really help me focus in. So those are easy, low cost. So that's kind of what this last slide is. I mainly showed you the ones we have in all the bins. We do have some items for service animals if needed, because we realized we had a practice, like an exercise where we had a service animal come with a person, and realized our staff weren't fully aware of what they could or couldn't say and what they could offer. So but just to note, most of those things that I showed you are inexpensive. Definitely the Pocket Talker is more, but I have listed a link. That link that we'll share at the end has all the different items where we ordered them from. And of course, there's a lot of places to get them. But that's kind of what we've done to have, again, at our main front desks, as well as folks are checking them out for events. And then taking them on different outreach, as well as, and I think in an emergency, what we found definitely useful if we needed to do a shelter setup. Oftentimes too, it's a disaster checkpoint where folks are having to evacuate and maybe they have to stop in to get resources or information. So just having these again available for all the different things they have to read and look at, make sure they fully get the information is helpful. A lot of the stuff for kids is useful because, like I always say to my emergency managers that I talk with, like, kids are going to show up, right? Wherever an adult is, they're going to have kids. Like, they're going to need to be taking care of a kiddo. It could be a grandparent, a parent, a caregiver, and having something to help the kiddo regulate is really useful too. Let me make sure we're doing pretty good on time. Anything else? Your list will be so useful. Wonderful. Oh, I love that. And yes, and we've had a success, right? Again, let me know if you need any help with the grant writing, but like getting that covered, because you really can show how you're adding that accessibility and accommodation support. And it does go far. Okay. Any questions on those? Feel free to, I know Lauren's going to help collect those. We do have a few items that were more expensive. We thankfully were able to order them with one of our emergency preparedness grant funds. We had some savings from a person leaving, so we were like, okay, maybe they'll allow that. And that was a couple years ago, plus that award that we received. So the UB Duo, I'll make sure, I believe the link is on that spreadsheet. If not, I'll let you know. It's a company out of Kansas City, but it was developed by a man who wanted to communicate with his dad. So he identified as deaf, but his dad was hearing and never fully learned sign language. And he was like, there's got to be an easier way to communicate. So it really is, it's like two computer halves that you just type back and forth. And it runs on radio frequency. And what's really neat in emergency situations is it doesn't require internet. So that's very useful. You can separate them apart for about 100 feet. So it really is like texting back and forth. They are very durable and last a long time, but because of that, and in their development, they are a little more expensive. They're close to $3,000 each, but I think if you have the ability, like in your grants or somewhere to have it, we were able to purchase a few, and then we can created a whole checkout process for our entire county to know this is a device that's available. And we do have one at our front desk area. Sometimes folks even prefer to use it just because they don't want to say out loud, talk about something that's confidential. I know that's been useful in our clinic, but you just type back and forth. And when we do the training with staff, we play a fun game where it's just like, take your half and start typing and try to figure out who you're talking with. We find it's very easy. You don't have to learn any technology. The only thing is it does not translate. And then I think the other thing too is the expense. You can obviously find some apps if this was too expensive, but it's been an awesome device for us to have as an option. And then I didn't mention this. I realized as I was just saying that there's another really cool device that I can add to our list. It's called a Pocket Talk. So not the Pocket Talker I showed you earlier, but it's actually a translator that you speak into, and then it will immediately translate to another language and you hand it to the person to speak back. That's been really valuable. We almost always have a bilingual person at the front desk, but when we don't, that's been really useful for staff. And especially because it has so many different languages. So that's some really helpful pieces that we've found in communication. I'll make sure that's on the Google Doc because that was a newer one we received. I am just about done. I think I just wanted to mention too, there's so much more I could share with you all. And if anyone's on to from an emergency, like that's your world is emergency planning, like happy to share more on what we've done more with our emergency management and how we've written it into our plans that when there's an emergency, here's how we support access and functional needs. Another big piece that we've worked on is communications with our communications team at the health department. So I'm sure you all have extreme weather, whether it's cold or heat. I know folks are like, oh, we're in Colorado, it's not that hot, but it's getting hotter. And we really need to think about how it affects key access and functional needs populations. So we've really been working this summer, and then we'll think about it too in the winter on really messaging that for, hey, like with extreme heat, here's things you need to think about, and helping our staff know too, like, oh, like I'm already doing prenatal visits, home visits as part of one of our programs. I need to talk with them about the risk of heat exposure, as well as even like fire and smoke and just different things. So that's been really neat as we train. We did like the foundation training with our staff, and then they asked, hey, well, what about extreme heat? Or like, I need something to help share with my families. So we've been really working on that as well. There's a lot of great information out there. Lots of other states. I didn't mention California also has a state AFN team, and then other states are doing some really neat things. So it's very possible, if it's not you, someone else is working on it, that you can connect with. But happy to try to make those connections since we know a lot of those folks across the country. And then just a quick note, we are now planning to gather a group that can meet monthly for about 9 months. We have an incentive. We're being very clear. We just have an incentive right now. Ideally, we'd be able to pay them, and that might be something in the future, but we're kind of calling it a volunteer advisory group with a thank you incentive to say, hey, like in an emergency, these are my top concerns. Like I identify as part of an access and functional needs group, and this is what I'm most concerned about. And that's really going to help us plan with the community and put their input in it rather than plan for. That's something we've learned a lot from our state team, right? You could make an emergency plan, but if you're just planning for someone, you haven't actually heard from them on what they truly need, and the plan may not be useful at all. So that's a big push we're going to do this next year between our health department and emergency management. And then we do already have some cool projects going around safe infant feeding in emergencies, where volunteers that already work with families provide these real simple infant feeding safety kits for families, and kind of talk with them about how are you prepared as a family for an emergency in case your power goes out, in case you have to leave your home for a day. What's your plan? And then doing some of that too with older adults and extreme weather. So I can share more about those resources if anyone's interested as well. And I just was thinking, I know Lauren had just mentioned that a lot of folks are libraries. I mean, they've been such an amazing partner my entire public health career. Whatever grant I'm working on, the libraries are always absolutely amazing, at the heart of the community. And I was just thinking about just some examples of how, again, thinking back to the Preparedness Month theme, this is how our libraries have been amazing, whether it's hosting a class for, folks on like, hey, here's how you make a communications plan as a family and pack a kit, and here's some items that we put in it. Or even this summer, there are cooling spaces. We were able to provide cooling towels along with our libraries and other partners for extreme heat, especially to populations where people that were unhoused or folks that don't have any type of cooling in their space of living. And then I think too, just again, that space to connect after, all the times, but especially in recovery, which is a really big focus now, because that's something that hasn't always been looked on when we think about emergency response. The response is intense and short, but the recovery is long and takes a lot of effort. And so again, there's so many ways libraries are involved in all of Preparedness Month and beyond. So that's like a big shout out to our amazing libraries, but all organizations too. I'm thinking of our community partners have done so many things with us. So again, just kind of that action step. Is there one thing that I've said that's like, maybe that could be useful, or I could ask about that? Even something as simple as like, we didn't have a sign at the front desk saying like, please let us know if you need an accommodation. We've got other things as far as like Nurse Your Baby Anywhere, which was awesome. Like I worked on that in a past role, and some other things, but it's like simple things like that, just to let folks know this is something we can support, and it helps them know what you do have, or putting it out there. Like one of you said, you've already got the magnifier out there. Does your staff know what they can offer if they see someone, or do they feel like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just gonna be quiet? Is there some simple things you can get now, even if the budget's tight? Maybe some of those lower cost items. And then definitely encourage like sharing or checking out items. I didn't have time today to really go into our backup batteries. Those are really neat because they're not generators, and they basically can just provide 4 additional outlets as needed, definitely for emergencies, but also events. So there's just some real neat ways. Maybe there's a way you can work with partners on pooling funds or resources to buy something that might be a larger priced item that you could share. I think, yes, we are coming to the end. So I would love, if there are any questions, happy to take them now. I do have, let's see, I did have it up on another one. Everyone gets to see all the tabs. But I do have my, let's see. I'm sorry, I had this on my Google, our resources page, because I know that's a lot of info, kind of, here you go in this hour. I feel like, let's see, play share. Okay, great. And I know they're going to email out these to the group as well, but I've got my information here. Some of my colleagues are on here too, because we've done this type of presentation with other groups, but basically we really tried to think through, here's the link, the different agency organization name and like what it is. So like, oh, what's that backup power stuff? Like, here's a link. A lot of this stuff here is helpful for emergency planning as well. I love this one from my colleague in Tennessee, like simple ways to explain like how to assist folks and like plain language. There's just some really great information, but if you scroll down to the bottom, that's where I at least have the cost at the time that we purchased it of the different items that we did buy for our kits, and some additional items that we found really useful. Again, tailor it to your community, like hear from them, or from talk to your staff about what have you had requested or needed. But this is a great starting point. And I'm not seeing the Pocket Talk on there, so I'm going to get that on there since that's been a new one we got just in the last couple months. But I did even put all our kid stuff, which is a ton. Not the infant feeding project. So if you have questions about that, happy to connect after the webinar. But yeah, that's at least a good starting point for resources along with our state AFN team site. And thankfully I'll still be here, so you can email me anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I see a question from Jeanette. I recently moved from Arizona. What was the link to look for meetings resources in other states?
Yes, let me give you, that was probably when I was talking about our state access and functional needs hosts trainings, and they'll do them virtually, and folks from other states are welcome to join. And it doesn't matter where you are. It's not limited to an area. So that is on that Google resource sheet. And I might look for Sadie's direct link here too, if I can find. Give me a second, I'll look for that. And you moved from, yeah, if you're from Arizona, but somewhere else, you definitely could still access it. And she does host a conference every spring that we'll get folks from other states attending that too. So yeah.
And if folks missed it in the chat, we will be sending out an email with the links and the PowerPoint and the recording. Just want to make sure folks knew that. While people are thinking of questions, I just had a comment I put together at my last job. Just some accessibility items, kind of the same idea. And a couple of ones that I had included that I didn't see, we had large print keyboards, which, makes sense for a library. We had folks, they could check them out for the day. They couldn't take them home with them, but they could check them out for the day. And we also had smart pens for folks so they could record lessons if they were in class. It was a nice little tool, and those could be checked out more long term, especially if students had an accommodation from their doctor. And the other item that I wanted to mention is we had these scanners called kick scanners, and I love them because you could scan them optical character recognition PDFs, so folks could have the PDF read to them, or you could actually have the scan saved as an MP3 file. So if somebody wanted to listen to something as an audio file, they could do that. So I just love all the work that you're doing and putting all these items together. I think it's really, really important. Oh, Emily says, keyboards that are different colors can be helpful too. Yellow keys with black letters. Yep, that's exactly what ours were. And then Allison just popped the link in the chat.
Yeah, you could find it through the spreadsheet, but that's the direct one to some of their, and you could check, some of them will say a location in Colorado, but then they have recordings to others, and then you can contact them, because sometimes every year in January, they'll offer like what they call AFN University. And it's a good 3-day, might be 2 weeks now, she breaks it up, but it can be done virtually, and that's free. And I love those library ones. I remember those recorded pens. I think someone had them at the county, but talking about it. So that would be amazing too. I don't know if something exists, if someone's created that specifically for like libraries, that could be a good template of like, this is what is helpful to have available at each library.
Yeah, we did something similar to you. We kind of looked what other universities were doing and just kind of compiled our list and then went back to our budget and said, what can we buy now? What can we buy later? Because everything we bought was pretty low cost. Like you were saying, the magnifiers, the little highlighter, the little plastic sheet, the highlight, the keyboards were cheap. So it was relatively inexpensive. We didn't buy too many. Just because we didn't have a ton of folks. We were going to wait and see how much interest there was and then buy more. but I don't see any other. Jeanette just says thank you.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. You can start and then see what's useful
And build.
kind of adapt as you go. And then it's just nice because you've got it. It is
Right.
hard when folks are like, I don't know if we'll need that like here at the front desk, but it's like you just want it here just in case. And then
Mhm.
when you'll need it, it'll be here. So
And it's nice to advertise on our site too. That we could say, hey, this is what we have, so people knew ahead of time if they wanted to poke around.
yeah.
If they were a planner like I am, I go on the website and see what's available. Oh, I got a question from Marie. I
Oh
may have
yeah.
missed the CEU survey. Oh, yes, will it be emailed to us? We're gonna pop it in the chat in any second now. So you can fill out that link. That just gives us feedback on the session, but that's also your gateway to get your continuing education credit. And Sam just popped it in the chat there. I think we've got time we got 1 more minute left. If there's any other burning questions waiting in the last 60 seconds or so, pop them in. But I just want to take this opportunity and say thank you so much, Allison. This is great. I really love this work. It's really near and dear to my heart. So I love hearing what other organizations are doing in their communities.
Thank you so much. And I'm excited to attend
Yes.
some of the other sessions. Like there's so many.
Yes.
So many
Melanie
good
says
ones.
this work is a natural
Mhm.
fit for public libraries. Thank you. Exactly. Exactly.
And I don't know, I know there's one, I think tomorrow, like some of your libraries may serve as that checkpoint in an emergency or a point of distribution, which would be like when medication needs to be dispensed if there was an emergency, or if you're maybe you did vaccines during COVID. So basically, it's interesting to think about if you are also supporting an emergency, you'll have those items there for that moment too. But there's just, again, I'm always like advocating for our libraries to be well resourced because you do so much for the community. And personally, I love my library and very grateful for the part it's played in my family's life. So thank you
Oh,
so much.
great. Lots of kudos in the chat. Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you. Well, I think we're at the top of the hour. If you think of anything, you're welcome to email Region 4. I'm going to put the email in the chat right now. If you think of any questions for Allison that come up after the session, you're always welcome to email us at Region 4 and we can pass your question along to Allison and she can get back to you that way. So again, we're going to send out the recording and the slides and the links, the important links that Allison mentioned. And we thank you for joining us today. This was really great. So you have a wonderful afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Take care now. Bye. Yes, you can share the recording. It's going to be up on YouTube, so you can share that YouTube link. Take care.
Thanks for watching. This video was produced by the network of the National Library of Medicine. Select the circular channel icon to subscribe to our channel or select a video thumbnail to watch another video from the channel.